These foundation music course students are faced with their first and potentially daunting academic assignment. Their tutors initially focus on developing those skills that will ensure every student can fully comprehend what is required of them.
The focus of this assignment is to demonstrate an understanding of how hearing loss occurs and how it can be protected in the music industry.
So what sort of things might we be looking at here, thinking about the music industry and what you're doing? These students have only been here for a semester, not even quite a semester, and a lot of them perhaps have difficulty around literacy, with reading and or language. So really all we're doing is making a level playing field, really, so that they all understand what's required of them.
What could happen to cause you to have damage to your hearing?
Instruments not set up properly.
On top of that, we're modelling strategies that they can use in the future to help them unpack descriptors for themselves.
Okay, so signs of hearing loss?
Tinnitus, when you get the ringing in the ears.
What we did was we unpacked what that assignment was about, and we did it in such a way so that the students were actually telling us what they did know. We did know that they had quite a bit of knowledge about it, but it's kind of drawing out what they know and having an example of mind mapping with Karen doing that. So that took the job away from the students, which they then copy, and it's another skill for them to use further down the track, and that's also a form of note-taking for them.
Looking at the paper that we've been reading, the 5 groups are going to go through the assessment criteria at the bottom.
I guess the descriptions were how they do their presentation, i.e. physically, maybe their attire, and I did notice that some of them didn't actually know what the word attire meant. Pace, how their delivery is paced to the audience, what supporting material they might use.
So group 1 is going to look at the written presentation plan, the structure, organisation and planning.
And so it was clarifying what areas those words were attached to in terms of their presentation, which actually took quite a lot of sorting through.
Instruments for demonstrate, straight.
In the small groups, they have to take more responsibility. There's more discussion involved, but they have to be more active as well.
So visual aid.
There's more of a chance in a big class for people to be passive. So there were 2 sides to the forming of the group. One was to promote more activity for the students in the group so that they were actively discussing meanings of the words in context. But the other thing too was taking responsibility for what they were learning, because they then had to come up to the front of the class and teach the class. So there's peer tutoring going on as well.
Yeah, and then put timing
Underneath it in a bracket.
Yeah. How about attire?
Well, what's that?
Like what you wear?
Some of the groups where we only had 3 students, there were some incredibly shy, terrified students in that group, and they were getting really good support from their co-students. So it's a really good opportunity for the students who sort of have a little more confidence to try and get the ones that don't have it on board, and it's better that they do it than us.
It really is unravelling every single piece and working backwards from what they have to produce. That's an aspect of delivery, but what is delivery? What do they know already? What's expected of them? What do they need in order to complete this task? That will all be in there. So those are the big things that we're looking for. Now we're going to look at the language that's used. There's all kinds of clues in the language in a descriptor that tell you what you need to do. Lots of the doing words, the verb words, what do they all mean? What does it mean if you're asked to present? What does it mean if you're asked to compare and contrast? What does it mean if you're asked to summarise? And we'll have different sessions on all of these skills.
Looking at your audience?
They need to be able to be literate in order to be successful in their field. And sometimes we try and use examples like our students are particularly musicians, and saying things to them like, well, you are going to need to be able to write liner notes for your CD, or maybe you're going to have to put an application forward to get funding. So on one hand we are inspiring them in terms of the future of why they need literacy, and on the other hand we're trying to sort of unravel the negative connotations about literacy which they bring with them.
It's obvious and it's overt. These are the skills we're looking at. We assume that people have these skills, and I don't know how they're supposed to have them by osmosis. I'm not sure. But we don't have them necessarily at all. So by giving it a name and making it a thing and saying this is what we're working on, and you can keep using these skills.
Pace, timing.
What is pace when you're talking?
Like don't rush.
The strategies that you're learning, you use for the rest of your life. Yeah. but do you think that you should...
The assessment tool is fantastic. Because it's self-paced, it's not like they're in a classroom and one person is talking. They are individually sitting at the computer dealing with these questions. The questions are fantastic because as you answer them, if you're starting to get them wrong, it will adjust it. And then the feedback tells you really good things about where your strengths and weaknesses are. So I think the students got heaps out of it, and because it's done on the computer, it's really good, and they can go back and do it again and update it for themselves.
When a student embarks on a course of study, they won't necessarily have any idea what the journey looks like.
We did delivery, so what delivery means is how we're going to present our presentations to you guys.
As they go, the journey becomes more and more obvious to them. The difference in those students now in terms of their self-belief as learners is huge. In some ways it's about regrounding themselves and finding that learner in them and making it okay. You know, sometimes it's not okay to be a learner because I didn't do well at school, therefore that's not me, so it's not okay. But to learn that it is okay and that it is you is a huge thing. It's massively powerful.